Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. And like the Red Raiders, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. With Mazda, move and be moved. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, back for a Locked On Texas Tech special edition. It's the Matador Mob Mailbag runneth over. Once again, Chris, so don't want to waste any time today as we're getting ready for Tech and K-State from Manhattan, Kansas. And some of what we will get to on today's episode will involve some resume comparisons for the Red Raiders and beyond, maybe favorable or unfavorable questions there. Also want to get to, of course, what's happening Saturday, not only offensively with Baron Morton and some things potentially afoot with the offensive line up front, but when it comes to what you were faced with defending on the other side for K-State. And that's where I want to start, Chris. Had this question out there regarding the K-State quarterback, Avery Johnson. This was from Sam and Michael. Also had Robert asking about Avery as he compares to other dual threats that we've seen so far this season. Would you consider him to be the toughest, somewhere just on a short list, or how do you view him to some of what Tech has already faced?
Well, and this just goes back to what we kind of knew you were going to deal with this year, is that it just seems like everybody's got a really good quarterback. You know, I mean, that's why this league was thought to be a bit different than others, especially in this category, because you just think about some of the guys that you faced. And like, I don't know if people have noticed because they're not on your schedule, but like what Brendan Sorsby's doing, like what his numbers are just ridiculous. But you know, Devin Dampier, Jalen Daniels, Sam Levitt, and you've seen some really good ones to this point. And I think Avery Johnson's he's got good numbers. They're probably not what maybe some would have hoped before the year, because I think he was kind of mentioned in the Heisman Trophy conversation. That's not going to happen. One, because they haven't won as many games, but his numbers aren't just eye-popping or anything like that. But he's kind of figuring it out. I think his upside is very, I'm not as big on him as some are, but he's a good player. I mean, and we've seen what he can do with his legs before in person, and you weren't prepared for it. He came off the bench cold, and you just didn't really have an answer. And they just, hey, man, let's just not overthink this. Let's just keep doing the same thing and see if the other guy adjusts, and you never did. And so 5 touchdowns later, it was kind of a, Kalen Ballage type moment for Avery Johnson that particular day in the Jones. Not good. And so he's taking care of it. He makes you nervous because of a lot of what he can do is unscripted, and the same stuff that we've talked about. Because see, like Levitt, he didn't really hurt you with his legs. That wasn't the theme. The theme was he just made plays when he needed to. He did hurt you with his legs to a certain extent, like especially in the final drive when he's kind of running, and then nope, I'm gonna okie doke you, and then I'm gonna throw it. But that's what this kid is like, his legs will kind of determine how this thing goes, whether he hurts you running it or he hurts you by extending a play or whatever, because you can only cover for so long. So rush integrity, don't over rush, all the stuff that you kind of we've heard all year long with a lot of these guys. It's all there again. And so you've got a lot of good practice. I don't know. I think this is probably similar to Utah in a way, in that they just are not going to overwhelm you with personnel around him. Scheme will get you a little bit if you get caught sleeping, or if you, on the one play where they decide to max protect, if you just cannot get a shot or can't get any pressure, they take a shot, kind of like Houston got you. Connor Wegman was another one that you only saw for a half in that game. He was another good quarterback. I mean, you just have dealt with really good players. Older. This is part of the portal era, though. Typically, everybody is going to, we'll get to that at some point in this show about your quarterback options for next year and portal shopping and all those things. But this is typically what everybody does. They go and make sure, okay, at the very minimum, let's make sure we've got an old experienced quarterback that we can trot out there. And so that's why it's just it's difficult. So, but he makes you nervous. Jace Brown can be held down, but it's the one 65-yard catch that scares you to death, because that could go for 7 points, and that may be, the difference in a game like this when you expect it to be a fairly lower scoring, closely contested game. Because I've seen Kansas State pick 32-31. I've seen Texas Tech pick 35-31. I mean, we'll see. You're only giving up 12 to 13 points a game on average. So we'll see if you give up in the 30s at all. And if so, Avery Johnson would have likely had a big day, or they've scored on special teams or something.
28-17, good guys. That's the only one you need to hear right here. I'm glad you mentioned the special teams component, because we did.
I would take that and run right now. No takebacks. Let's set
up. You ain't too proud. You'd take a 2-0 ball game if we did out that way. Let's have a safety and be done with the scoring. Too many points for my liking.
I'll back up out of there in the most boring game ever, but I would take it and, run out of Manhattan. I'd walk home.
Rock them right to sleep with nothing but defensive stops and flipped field position. Bill Snyder would be proud. I'm glad you mentioned that third side of the ball, because we actually did have a special teams question as it relates to K-State, and things to be on the lookout for there. Always expect that group to be solid. Sometimes they do also have some outstanding individual returners or whatever it might be here or there. So we had Rylan, Stewart, and Matthew, and shout out to Colt, who was also in on that first question. I forgot him. My bad, Colt. Rylan, Matthew, and Stewart asking about anything K-State special teams to worry about, whether it's an individual or some component that stood out to you.
No, not like in years past. I mean, they do have a kick return for a touchdown this year. They haven't returned a punt for a touchdown. They've got, their kicker was set to be a young man from Lubbock Cooper named Cub Patton. He has had some surgery this past summer. He's out for the year. And I think that they were in flux at that position with what their kicking situation was going to be. And I'm trying to make sure that I know who you're stumping me here.
There's about half a person that'll be disappointed if you don't know the kicker.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I've got it. I'm in the process of, but they were, if you watch them against Iowa State at the beginning of the season, you could tell, was it either surface related, was it weather related, or were they just unsure about sending a kicker out there for, some meaningful kicks. And so they don't really have this isn't like special teams wise, they have a reputation of being, we've seen this. This is why this question is being asked, as a matter of fact. There's nothing there that should jump off the page that should concern you. No. But it is a phase where they don't typically beat themselves. I don't know if I see the playmaking that we've seen in years past, but this is a phase that you need to it needs to be a tie or you win it. I would say for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, you got more? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is that you don't, you return the kick for touchdown, you block the punt, but I would just say, man, if you could just make the kicks that you're supposed to make, or that you are, whatever, that I would take that, and just don't give up something. But you may have a bit of an advantage here on paper, so we'll kind of see what that looks like. But these are plays up there for whatever reason that seemingly change games, and I've seen it in Lubbock too. I mean, I remember them returning a touchdown.
Oh yeah.
For a kickoff in Lubbock too, and you're like, what just happened? So yeah, be on high alert
out there.
Yeah. That's part of this movie. That's part of this movie that we've all seen before. That the ending sucks.
Yeah. Can I I was curious just from a cut and line standpoint, if maybe I could just ask a question, because I think if you're really considering Texas Tech special teams, the kicking situation, we got another missed extra point from Upton Bellenfant. I'm wondering if it's not a game that's headed towards a 42-0 conclusion, is he still getting that opportunity? And since we saw that again, I'm not holding a missed 40-something yard field goal against Stone Harrington, because I know that was on his sheet for the night as well. But do you think that situation played out the same way if it wasn't that 38-point favorite day? First, today's episode brought to you by Mazda is moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds and keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved us came in the first second of the game against Oklahoma State as Jacoby Williams took the opening kickoff 99 yards for the score. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. With Mazda, move and be moved. Do you think that situation played out the same way if it wasn't that 38-point favorite day with Bellenfant getting another opportunity?
Yeah, so what Kenny Perry would say to this question, who's in charge of who goes out there and who doesn't? Neither guy was ready to kick it at the time, and it's unacceptable. Like, and I think what he's saying is maybe is because it's the score's out of hand, everybody's kind of
loosey.
A little bit, yeah,
loosey goosey. Okay,
and that can't be, and he was not real thrilled with that at all. Didn't really want to talk about the kickoff return for touchdown. Didn't really want to talk about the block punt. Is really want to talk. I mean, that's the life of a special teams coach. Right. It's like we start the game off about as perfect as you can, then follow it up with one of the hardest things to do, and then he goes home with a sour taste in his mouth because you have a couple of makeable kicks that are missed in a blowout, so it doesn't hurt you. But these are the kinds of games where it will matter. Like it will matter. And I guarantee you those guys were their feet were held to the fire this week, and you're still trying to figure out which option you trust the most, and you're going to continue to rotate. But it's, you miss some kicks in the Houston game that didn't ultimately hurt you, but you can't do this in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so, the extra point thing for sure. If you're considering at all, one possession type of ball games, then that's going to be an unpleasant conversation to have if it ever came back to bite you. But like with tortilla assessed penalties or missed extra points, I do like the plan also of just whipping their tails so soundly.
Well, yeah,
none of this matters. So continue to do that as well. Here's a question from Clay asking about the offensive line. If Will Jados is not a guy that's a go on Saturday as a starter, Chris, do we know what the best five looks like? I know you've kind of touched on this, but this week, but anything changing as we get closer to Saturday?
It would be Cash Cleveland. The real question I have is okay, now who's the swing tackle? That's really the question that I have that I'm curious about, because Jados was starting at left guard, but he was also the swing tackle. So if something happened to either tackle, he was going to go play one, and then you move the other one, and all that stuff. And so now if Jados is, and I think I think he might play. So we'll just kind of keep that. He's been dealing with a shoulder issue all season, and he was over on this is what he was taken out of the game for this week. He's an older player with experience, so if he missed it there, so a practice, I don't think it's anything you need to freak out about, or if he was limited in practice, which I'm guessing he was, which is why he was listed as questionable. I think that because he's been, people have said different things about him. Man, he's really good, or man, is this the best we got? He's been playing with a shoulder injury all season, and I think it's been pretty good, so we'll just kind of see. But yeah, my question would be, and I don't know if I know the answer to that. I don't know if it's DeAnthus Upshaw. I don't know if this is Connor Carty as a true freshman. I don't know if it's Ellis Davis. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what, do you do something and insert, like an interior guy and bump somebody out again? I mean, I just don't know. So this is a good question that But that's really the main question to me. Cash Cleveland going in for Will Jados is the easy answer, but it's like okay, now what? That's what you need to focus on there. So anyway, we'll kind of see as we get closer to game time what that looks like.
Thank you for that question, Clay. This one from Blake and Tammy and Nate, asking about Cam Dickey and why you think he hasn't been as explosive as he was a few weeks ago. Can we get him back on track?
And I don't want to not forget to remember to mention that like Hunter Zambrano would have been an answer at tackle. Okay. But he's I think that he's going to be back next year. I don't think you'll see him the rest of the way. So that's why I'm mentioning those other names. So I just don't want somebody to go, "What? Well, Zambrano is the natural choice." Well, that's why I didn't mention him. As far as Cam goes, I was asked on a radio interview I was doing this week about, man, what's wrong with the running game? And it's funny how the length of a football season and the ebbs and flows that you had. So let's go back. Let's take the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, you're just Cam Dickey was about as explosive as anybody in college football. You're running for 360. We're talking pocket knives. We're talking anybody could have run through that hole, but we're clocking him at 21 miles an hour. We're doing all the stuff, right? Okay, well, then you go to Arizona State, and it just – but at the Kansas game, it was like, man, passing game wasn't just very good. Like, what's going on there, you know? And so then you go to Arizona State, and it's like everything was broken, right? I mean, it was just whether it was Arizona State, whether it was you being timid, whether it was the environment, whether it was they tackled well, whether it was, I don't know, but it just didn't seem like anything really clicked and you were in rhythm on anything. And yet you did have a 3-point lead with 2 minutes to go. As bad as it all was, you still were right there. And then last week, you start throwing the ball down the field. You drop a sure-handed touchdown pass. You start throwing it all, and now it's like, okay, I think the running game has got. This is what we do. We talk it out. I think this weekend really will tell you a lot about where they are. If you don't see any glimpses of the Salt Lake or the Kansas, kind of ability to run it, because see, there's a difference too in that. Buy into a theory, sell a theory, whatever. But here's some. QB run game has been a part of some of this stuff, and so it opens up everything. Or don't buy into that theory. Buy into, well, when Barron's in there, they've been able to run it better consistently because he gets them into the right play. He knows on the RPO stuff, give it here, throw it there. I mean, he's making better choices as with the experience. I don't know. But I'll just say this. You have to go into this game. You have to, at some level, be able to run the football when they know you're going to. It's got to be there. You can't. And I do, based on, because the QB run game is not really going to be there except for maybe a play or two. And he's going to scramble around, and people may lose their minds if he does run it 1 or 2 times, but it's just there's going to be a few glimpses of that. But I think you'll see a lot of quick game to manufacture some of these rushing yards, and it's really going to be incumbent in this game because this part was just non-existent against Arizona State. Some of your playmakers are going to have to earn their money here. They are going to have to make some plays when it's not either there, or they're going to have to break some tackles, And in that same conversation, that this is what they're being preached to all week. Terrence Carter, who I think will play, and Coy and Caleb and Reggie and Cam and all that. And yet don't be the guy that just fights so crazy and is like and don't take care of the ball when you're just trying to get that extra yard or two, when in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. It's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to make some yards after the catch and after contact and all that stuff, like generally speaking. But it can't be all on Barron. It can't be all on the run game and all that stuff. And so, anyway, I'm just trying to give you the whole context of the conversation there.
I think it's got to come down to the offensive line, and probably in my view, the running backs losing maybe a little of that patience that was working for them for a few weeks. That wouldn't sum it up entirely, of course, but I can't attribute what they were doing to QB ground game because I don't really feel like you've ever had that, except for the weeks that maybe Hammond was on the field. And then those were two of the worst rushing weeks that you've had. And I think at the same time, I'll buy a little bit more into the thought of a QB that can punish you down the field, maybe a little bit more consistently, or take advantage of some of what the defense is trying to do with the loaded box. Maybe that will open some things up. But in general, I think we need better weeks from the offensive line, and I think you need better weeks from those ball carriers. I mentioned it a few times leaving the OSU game. It seemed like there were some plays where it looked like there was a little daylight, and then maybe it was Dickey that would be heading in another direction. And I am also not scheming up anything. So where the alley is, good guess. But whenever you're seeing linemen headed in certain directions and maybe a gap appearing here, but there's not a ball carrier there, you know that something might be amiss. So I'd point to those two things as to how to get it back on track and buy a little bit into, like we talked about this week, your starting quarterback, maybe loosening up the defense a little bit to help with that.
Yeah, I'm expecting a 24-17 type of game, 31-20. I just don't know if this is going to get crazy. I think that the scores that you're in, the drives that you're able to put together will be magnified, just because I don't know if I envision just a ton of those for either team.
Going back to the kickers is what it sounds like. We're going back to the kicking game.
And special teams. I think so. And I think that in this game that we'll see how it goes, but I also think you have to be willing to live with some field position and live with, not taking some chances on offense, not going for it. Okay, let's punt. Let's play the long game here. I think that you need to be okay with that a bit. I don't know what their thought is. That's just me looking at it from afar, that this is just one where, okay, it's okay if we send our defense back out there. This isn't some juggernaut Kansas State offense. Okay. They are opportunistic. They will get you if you blow a coverage. They've got a quarterback that kind of pulls a rabbit out of his hat on occasion, but you have a pretty good unit on that side of the ball too. So don't be afraid about sending them back out there. And again, we'll see how this plays out. Maybe you get to a point where, okay, got to take some chances, got to be more aggressive, or stop being so vanilla. I'm not saying that this is how you went into the Arizona State game, okay? Because what I'm describing here is like, well, you went into Arizona State timid, and you kind of just, you won't do that, okay? That's not what I'm saying. Barron is going to cut it loose. I think you'll throw it down the field and all that. I'm just saying there's going to be certain circumstances where you go, you know what, the non-play there is a good play. Let's live to tell about it. And you know what I mean? And not put ourselves,
roll those talking points over into every damn week. I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing defense. People act like playing defense or taking advantage of field positions is sin, and you just missed the boat. I'm sorry, on like 100 years of football history, if you feel that way. So yeah, go on and do that. You reminded me, Chris, because it was actually early in the McGuire era at K-State where I saw one of the most bonkers early fourth down conversions or fourth down attempts, because you didn't convert it. That I remember early on, where I'm thinking, oh, okay, we're on the riverboat now. Because I think it was like first or second quarter, your own 29-30-ish.
That was a Donovan Smith led team.
And I'm like, oh, this is a different approach.
and that's when they, truth be told, that's when they really, they were like, operating this way gives us the best chance to win the picture, because you didn't have much of a defense. This was like, you were going to roll the dice and get after it. But as we've seen, you really haven't had to go that route this year.
Yeah, Coach McGuire since then has seemed to keep maybe 1 foot on the riverboat, 1 foot on the shore, or at least tied to the dock here or there, ready to utilize it when necessary. Thank you for that question. This question here, Chris, I want to get to, before we get to these resumes, some round ball talk, because it is just around the corner. And I mean, like, the corner's in our face. November 4th, we're getting started from United Supermarkets Arena. And we had a whole lot of mobsters chiming in on what's happening with Grant McCaslin's bunch this week. Diane, Eugene, Mark, Scott, Michael, Adam. We had Jose as well. Chris, all asking about the Red Raiders, and sort of a two-parter here. Wanting to know if we could get some insights on some of the secret scrimmages and maybe who was utilized or who was not utilized, what to make of those. And then this is my favorite part of this, because we have got essentially a boot watch committee assembled. First, today's episode brought to you by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, this player delivered when it mattered most. This week for Texas Tech, it was the man in the middle, linebacker Jacob Rodriguez, who led the Red Raiders with 10 tackles, 1 for a loss, a forced fumble, and of course the return to the end zone for a touchdown. And just like Jacob Rodriguez delivered for Texas Tech, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. And with DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. So you can stack it up all season and wind up saving up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive, keep the winning alive by fueling your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promotional period through November 18th. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet only $5, and if your bet hits, you're getting $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Play your props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Any way you like it, FanDuel has you covered, and it's quick, easy, and secure every time. Ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Basketball injuries. Is this a thing we're going to be talking about as we get close to tip-off? Part of, I believe it was Diane's text, Chris, said Watts without a brace last Saturday. Watts with a brace at the block party. Just as an example of the close eye we're keeping on these things. Thank you for your vigilance. Chris, I'll turn it over to you as we get ready for hoops. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of those deals where there's a lot of gray area here. I think you were missing a lot of folks when you scrimmaged Iowa, and you still won. I think they led the majority of the game, and then you put a lot of your walk-on type guys into the game, and I think it was a bit of a closer game, but you still won. Again, these don't mean anything. I mean, they do, but they don't. The result doesn't really matter. How you got to that result is probably more what everybody's curious about, including the coach. But I hope I'm wrong here, but I think you might be dealing with some of this stuff for a few weeks. I think everybody's situation may be a bit different, but I think it's fair to wonder about, because you're right. You have a big function out there, and then you got a bunch of players out there with a boot on and all that, and precautionary, serious. I don't know, but I mean, there was talk. There was talk on the message boards at RedRaidersports.com several weeks ago about Luke Bamboye. You've seen the Josiah Mosley questions, and now there's questions about Lawan Watts and Tyree Bryan. So those 4 guys are, thought to be, or were thought to be, part of starter / your rotation. So we'll see what we get here. I will say, though, that it doesn't appear that there's been any boot sighting with Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, so we're straight there. Because that duo, I mean, you and I and some dude on the corner saying, man, help me out here, man. I need a little help. The 3 of us could go out there against Lindenwood and probably win on the opener, as long as we had Christian and JT Toppin. But the problem is you're at Illinois the next week. And then, the trip to the Bahamas is a few weeks down the road. And so, it's going to start coming here pretty quick. But I think Donovan Atwell has been really good. I think Jalen Petty has been really good. I think that if there is an issue with Bamboye, that Mariella Kuntak is going to need to play some minutes for you. I think you better start remembering all the things that we said about Leon Horner last year, because he could be sprinkled into this deal. Nolan Groves, true freshman. So this is kind of what you're looking at here. So I'll say this, that the 2 guys that me and you and our newfound friend would team up with have looked really good in the scrimmages. I mean, really, really good. So basically, I think they've combined for 50-ish points in both games. So
Atwell and Petty, names to commit to memory if you haven't so far. And I only say that because I feel like I've heard McCaslin talk about them repeatedly just in a matter of a few recent weeks as far as guys that are going to make an impact. Before we leave that topic, Hayden was asking also, do we know what to expect as far as Big 12 basketball availability report processes? Are we going to get the same kind of run up, or do you know yet?
Yeah, I need to go back and check the timing to be sure. But see, these are not going to be available in these non-conference games again.
Yeah.
So that's going to be we're all going to be guessing and trying to figure it out. But I believe, I don't know if it's like night before or if it's like the 90 minutes prior. But yeah, there'll be some. But as we've seen, is everybody going to follow it? I think there's been articles written this week about how well Joey and Kenny Dillingham and Deion Sanders are trying to follow this thing, and I think there's a lot of speculation, accusation, whatever, that others are not. We see you, Coach Whittingham. But in his defense, if there's not going to be any ramifications here, then why would you follow it? I think there's some other leagues, namely the SEC, that if we catch you or whatever, there's a one fine, and then we fine you heavily the second time. Like in the NFL, they'll start taking draft picks away from you. They will start fining everybody like substantial amounts of money. So I would be okay with that. Like, lay it on the table, man. And like, what are we trying? It's to hide from this crap is the dumbest thing ever. Like, what's the point? If you think somebody's like really altering practice because of a certain player or this or that, I just think that's a level of arrogance that I just can't wrap my head around. Like, come on, dude, nobody's that good, And if you're worth your weight as a coach or a staff, you're preparing for all kinds of stuff anyways. There's not really like what's a totally different offense when this guy's in here versus, I mean, just the game plan and the gamesmanship, it's third grade, in my opinion. It gives nobody an advantage. They played, he played that card before the Tech game, and you went up there and you whipped their ass, and made them like it. And he had to go in the post-game press conference and say, I'm stunned. I'm shocked. They really did mean things to us on the lines of scrimmage. Yeah, and you didn't have to really be all cutesy with your little injury report. Guess what? It didn't really matter. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that I hate to give up in the sense that you could have somebody fooling around with it, and then you're just sitting here saying, I don't give a who you bring. We'll be ready to whip your ass. Bring whoever. Tell us. Don't tell us. I don't care. I'm continuing to have to remind myself why I'm supposed to care again also about these lists, but we'll see if the Big 12 does enough to actually pursue any real consequences or impact. I could not care less either way, but it's been fun to discuss every freaking week. So thank you for that opportunity, Big 12 Conference.
And it's gonna be a thing. Everybody is more transparent. There's a gambling component here, but you got to get everybody to comply. If people are gonna not, then it's like, what's everybody else doing? Because it does probably put Joey at a disadvantage in some way if you really he's following the rules, others are not. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, it's you go up to Salt Lake and stomp a mud hole in somebody and walk it dry. And we got cutesy with the injury report. Karma remains undefeated, man.
You'll always have that cutesy with the injury report, and week whatever, put it on a banner. And we're going to put on a banner 3-point lead with 2 minutes left in Tempe, I think. Chris, how about this one regarding resumes? Lonnie, David, Mitch, and Lance asking if we're doing any resume watching. Whether it relates to like some graphics that have been viral this week as far as Tech ranked wins compared to some others nationally. You got a pair, and Georgia has that many. Alabama has 4. That's it as far as tops in the nation. I know there's been some comparing and contrasting with, say, Oregon as well, or maybe some other Big Ten foes ranked higher than the Red Raiders. Are you paying any attention to this resume stuff yet? And do you feel like Tech is getting shorted?
I saw the one graphic where it had Tech and Oregon, and it had the comparisons, and all that stuff. And I get it, and people should point this out and shine a light on it. Does it bother me? Do you feel slighted? No, because this is all based on AP rankings. Like, if you want to talk slight, next Tuesday night at 7:00 at the same time you're tipping it up with your basketball season, that's when the first CFP rankings will come out. And that's what you need to have an issue with and agree or disagree with. That's what really matters here. And I know there's an AP poll aspect to how they come up with this, but I think there's the eye test and all the other stuff, but just win, man. And like Oregon's example, they lost to the second or third ranked team in the country. Now, granted, it was at home, but you've lost to an unranked team now. We think Arizona State's pretty good. We know that they won the Big 12 last year. We know they went to the playoff, but you see what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's all about when we're sitting here talking, because I got to tell you, and this may, some may not agree with it, but I didn't think Houston was very good. I'm just going to be honest with you. They were pretty good. And that may be your most impressive win now?
I just kind of respected the game plan. Oh, they're a salty bunch, competitive, respect the head coach. But I'm like, all right, 8-4 bowl game, good for Houston. But they got higher. What are they, 7-1? I think right now. So
and I mean, Cowan, the way their schedule sets up, I mean, they could be staring at 10-2, man.
Yeah,
I mean, they really could.
Sure. Thank you for that question. Michael and Adam asking about pass catchers as well as Caden. Seems like receivers are struggling. Anything we can do to fix this? Caden is asking about, do you think Valson or Hudson might have showed enough last week to get some reps moving forward? He says the lack of rotation is still odd to me. Those guys are bound to be gassed from playing so many snaps. What do you think heading into this weekend?
Yeah, and again, you're not playing as many snaps as you would think, just generally speaking on offense. But I think Micah and Kelby are because TJ West is going to, I think, be lost for extended period. I think they're now into the preserving red shirt mode with certain guys. So you have to kind of keep an eye on that. I think Bryson Jones, I believe, has been dinged up, if memory serves. I think he's been on an injury report or two in the last couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think Valson and Roy Alexander has been a non-factor this year. I don't know if you'll see him again this year. So I think that Micah and Kelby and some of those guys certainly could factor in.
Can I ask you about Roy since you brought him up? Because we also had Richard and Stan just asking about the gist of his story. Is this all injury related? Was there anything else involved here?
I think it's injury related, but I gather that he's just not in the plans this season, and so which means he can theoretically come back next year. Although I doubt it's here. I'll just say that.
Gotcha. Matthew, Glenn, and Brian are asking, are we past the point of no return with Jacoby Williams special teams wise? Expecting to see more and more of him to finish the season?
Well, yeah, because
you're talking about the 99-yard TD guy, right? I think.
Well, and the 55-yarder at Arizona State, right? Yeah. I mean,
why'd they pull that trigger? Is it because the offensive spark wasn't there and they're just looking for one anywhere? Or why do you think that switch happened?
Yep, get him touches. He makes plays, and now it's on tape, and now you're going to get, he won't get as many chances. I think even last week, I think they put him back there, or no, maybe it was we couldn't figure out the punter, and so let's put Tristan Gentry and Cole Aiken back there and force you. Hey, you pick the side. We got a guy that is more than capable on either side. But I think you're now in the mode of, we like our playmakers and we're going to continue to give them chances. See, this is also what kind of got them in a bit of trouble here too at the end of the game in Tempe. Remember the kickoff, and I think it was an offsides on Arizona State, and you elect to have them re-kick it, and it cost you 4 to 5 seconds or something. Do you remember this scenario? Mm-hmm. Do you remember this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, don't you rather have the time back? But I think they are just like saying, no, we're going to gamble here, and we're going to gamble that we want our guys, our explosive athletes, to get more chances because we think that there's a better than good chance that we could bust something like they had previously done in that game. But this is the mindset, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I know with the Jacoby deal, I just don't know if you can't save anything for anybody anymore. Those days are over, and you hope and that something bad doesn't happen. You hope that it works and that he's healthy and all the stuff. But this is the game you're playing right now. Your mulligan has been used.
No doubt. David is asking, is it nothing or something that Howard Sampson was going nuts with teammates and coaches in last week's game? Competitive fires or
okay? So I witnessed this. What happened is this was a goal line scenario, and I think Oklahoma State was jawing back. Howard went over there and got in the middle of it, and he was fired up. I think some teammates tried to pull him back, and he almost was like, is this an Oklahoma State guy? Because and then he realized, but he just kind of was waving everybody off. It spilled over on the sideline. He got up from the huddle, and I think Clay McGuire was trying to talk to him, and he just was, his emotions got the best of him. So part of you was like, uh-oh, is he a loose cannon? But you could also play the card of, well, I'm glad somebody up front's got some fire and some pissed off for greatness about him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So play it however you want. Internally, I mean, Mac was asked about this earlier in the week. There's no issue. There's no lingering issue. He got caught up into the Oklahoma State back and forth, and he just kind of, but in some ways I'm like, okay, this isn't good. But then in some ways I was like, good for him for having a little fight. And, because you were kind of the 2.2 yards per carry. It was kind of, you always wonder, are these guys really invested? Are they this? Are they that? And I think he right there was showing you he's every bit of invested.
I think it's a good way to phrase the question too. Is it something or totally nothing? Because you see things like this play out sometimes in the heat of it all, and it's just the way it goes, and it turns out to be nothing. Kind of reminds me of a time I was getting a bit of a chewing in front of the team for maybe a few too many F-bombs coming off the field after a disappointing drive, but the coach followed it with, at least I know he cares. And yeah. I did, coach, but I'm sorry I didn't care about keeping the language clean in that particular moment. Thank you for that question. This question here from, well, let's see, more than a few. This was actually sort of a long list we're going to get to here. Shout out to Cole and Andrea. Shout out to Jose, Patrick, Zach, Kirsten, Dane, Joseph, Nick, Nathan, and Justin, and probably a few more, Chris, who are wanting to get busy and start talking portal plans for the QB room. But to hear the answer to that, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial for those on the outside. This is where we leave you for the week. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss a thing, and become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full mailbag experience next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend, including you too, Chris. But first, we're on to the OT. Thanks for the regulation time.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it. It's been another great week around here. Let's hope the weekend is as good. And next week, regardless of what happens in Manhattan, is going to be wild and crazy. We've got a lot going on. 2 games with hoops, a massive game regardless of the result. It's another must-win game against an undefeated team and all the stuff. So appreciated the time. Appreciate the questions as always to our mob folks. And we'll keep going here for, I don't know, another 30. Maybe even talk, there's a lot of quarterback stuff to get to here, and not just portal stuff.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss a thing. Hope everybody has a fantastic time in the LBK or Manhattan. If you are hitting the road, travel safe, and we'll catch you on the other side. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.